Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about slope-intercept form. Let's start with some vocabulary. A linear function is a function whose graph is a straight line. Slope, which is something we've already talked about, is the change in y over the change in x. Remember, we're going to represent that as the variable m. Our y-intercept, so this is the piece we're adding in today, is where the line crosses the y-axis. We represent that with the variable b. We're going to use a table to find the range of y equals x plus 1. Then we're going to plot those points on the graph. All right, so when we are given this here, this x plus 1, we can take this x value of -1 and substitute it in. -1 plus 1. Well, that gives us 0. So my y value is 0. Okay. I can take my 0, substitute that in for x. So 0 plus 1 gives me 1. Take my 1, substitute that in for x. 1 plus 1 is 2. And then I can take the 2, substitute it in for x. 2 plus 1 is 3. So now we have these 4 ordered pairs that we can graph. Let's take a look at them. So -1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, and 2, 3. Now, what would happen if we connect the points? We have a nice straight line. Okay. Is our graph a relation? Yes, it is, because any set of ordered pairs makes a relation. Okay. Is our graph a function? So remember, a function is a special type of relation. So think about that vertical line test. I can draw a vertical line anywhere I want through this line, and I only touch it once. So it passes the vertical line test, so it is a function. So the graph of a line is what we call a linear function. So the graph of a line is called a linear function. We're going to make a table for this function here. Then we're going to identify the range of each function. So y equals 5x. Your domain is your 0, 1, 2, and 3. We've got those put into the table. I want you to try on your own to figure out what are the y values, and then remember the proper way to write out our range. Go ahead and pause the video now. Okay? Let's come over here. Slope from an equation. All right, so here we have this equation. This is what we call a linear equation. Y equals mx plus b. You're going to see this a lot over the next several years. All right, so we're going to graph that equation. So let's start by making a table. So we've pulled up a table of values. Now when we want to graph an equation from a table, we can pick any x values we want. But of course we want to make it easier on ourselves. So I know that I have to multiply my x value by 1/2, or in this case -1/2. So I need to find numbers that I can easily multiply by 1/2 and get a whole number out. So if we remember, multiplying by 1/2 is the same as dividing by 2. So I want to make sure to pick numbers that I can easily divide by 2. Okay? And then I should end up with nice whole numbers for my y values. So if I do -1/2 times -4 minus 3. So that -1/2 times -4 will give me a +2 minus 1 gives me -1. Now I'm going to do -1/2 times -2 minus 3. So that gives me a +1 minus 3 gives us a -2. Now I can substitute 0 in for x. Remember, substituting everything in for that x right there. -1/2 times 0 minus 3. We end up with -3. And then I'm going to substitute 2 in for x. So -1/2 times 2 minus 3 gives us a -4. All right, so now we can go ahead and graph those. All right, ignore that little -2 and +4 for now. I'm going to move those out of the way. All right, so let's go ahead and graph these ordered pairs that we have. So I've got -4, -1. got -2, -2, 0, -3, and 2, -4. All right, I'm going to draw a line through those points that we've graphed. Now, we've already learned how to find slope of a line, so let's see if we can go ahead and do that. How do I find slope of a line? Well, remember that's my rise over run. I can pick 2 points. So let's say I want to go between this point here and this point down here. I can rise down, in this case 2, so a -2, and then I can run over to this point 4, plus 4. So what is the slope of that line? Well, we've got a -2 over 4. So -2 over 4, we can simplify that because slope always has to be in simplest form, and it needs to be left as a fraction. Whoops. Equals -1/2. Huh. That -1/2 looks really familiar. Do we have that up here in the equation? Oh, we do. It's right here. Okay, that -1/2. Remember our y equals mx plus b? What did we say m was? We said that's our slope. Okay? So that m is our slope. Now, what does that -3 represent? This -3 that we have here. Well, remember what did we say b was on the front page? We said it was our y-intercept. Where does our line cross the y-axis? Well, here, right here, this point right here is where my line crossed that y-axis, that 0, -3. Okay? That's my y-intercept. So that -3 is the y-intercept. All right, so the 3, or the -3 in this case, represents our y-intercept. All right, I want you to try on your own. I want you to come up with some y values based on the x values that were given to you, and then graph it, determine the slope of the line, and what is the y-intercept. Go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, let's go to the next page. Fill in the blanks for each equation. So remember, m is our slope. So here we have y equals -1/5 x minus 15. If we remember our equation, y equals mx plus b. Okay? Y equals mx plus b. So I can go ahead and just put that over. My m lines right up with that -1/5. Okay? So that's my slope. The b lines up with that -15. So my y-intercept is -15. Let's do this one. So what if I take that y equals mx plus b and I put it over this? Okay, well, we got the slope, that's pretty easy, m, -2. But what about the plus b? I don't have anything here. So I could add in a +0. Okay, now it lines up with my b, so my y-intercept is 0. That means it's going to go through the origin. Okay. All right, go ahead, I want you to try these two on your own. And then that is the last part of our notes. So make sure that you complete all the try on your owns before you come into class, and I will see you next time.